We've been in business together now for the last 12 years, and we've been fortunate enough that in the last 5 of those years, we have turned over £25 million in revenue. So we are going to give you a complete breakdown of our business today, how we make money, how we manage our team, and the entire business process. So stick around and you might learn a thing or two. Simply put, our business is global procurement and supply chain management. And to most people, that sounds very vague and boring. And I would be inclined to agree. But the lovely thing about our business, what we do in layman's terms, is we help source products for our customers all over the world. And we utilize and leverage other suppliers to manufacture those products for us. And it's something that we started 11 years ago with our dad, who founded a business as an engineer in the Black Country of Birmingham in the early 80s. And he was working with his dad, wasn't he?
Yeah,
and he was an engineer, metal basher, which obviously back in the 80s as in England, in the Black Country, we were a real manufacturing superpower, and the Black Country and Birmingham was really the central hub for all things manufacturing. So for our dad, who wanted to become an engineer, it was perfect for him. But what happened was, as you can imagine, as we went into the latter stages of the 20th century, people stopped wanting to become engineers. It was being outsourced, and we were moving into more of a service-based economy, and kids coming out of school wanted to become YouTubers, rappers, singers, pop stars, actors and TikTokers, and certainly not engineers. And so that left a massive skill gap for us as a country, which unfortunately left the remaining engineers that were able to do the jobs, which is a simple economic supply and demand scenario where we've got a reduced supply of quality engineers and the demand is still remaining fairly steady. And so when you've got a shorter supply of something and the demand remains high, the cost goes up. So salaries went up, they were demanding more and more money. The competition for poaching of staff increased massively. And so the business in its old form, the writing was on the wall, really, and the sort of provision was taken to start moving all of our order book over to China. We looked at India, we looked at Taiwan, South Korea, and just Far East countries that were emerging in this new manufacturing space, and started looking at moving our order book over there and
taking our jobs.
They took our jobs.
Taking our jobs. But realistically, that's just a standard. It's a standard societal thing. When a country becomes really successful and we became too successful, you outsource the jobs that you no longer want to do. And that is, simply put, our manufacturing power. It was outsourced and sent over to China, and they took it and lapped it up, and they've used it to grow their economy and their country. And we've used it for the last 12 years, 20 years sort of prior to that to help source products all the way from there. So simply put, again, our business, we take inquiries for so many different product ranges across a wide number of industries, and we basically take what our customers' requirements are and we match them with the relevant suppliers that we've built up a relationship with over the last 20 years plus of being out overseas. And the way I always describe it, it's like having a butcher and a baker, and you might need a loaf of bread that needs to be made. And if you don't know that the bakery exists and you knock on the butcher's door and he says that he's got flour, he's got eggs, he's got an oven and all the ingredients, he might be able to knock a loaf together for you for £5. But the reality is, it's not going to be the best loaf that you'll ever see. He's kind of inexperienced. He hasn't got the kit for it, and it's not something that he does very often. Whereas you might put the order through thinking, well, £5 is great. And then next day you see the bakery and you can see all this bread for a quarter of the price. And you're thinking, is this a worse product? But the reality is it's not. It's a better product at a better price because you've gone to the right supplier for the job. And sometimes our skill and our experience comes in the understanding of knowing where to purchase certain products from, because each manufacturer and each supplier has a strength and a certain set of capacity and certain benefits that they have towards certain processes. And once you know what that is, you can marry. It's like a game of matching.
Yeah, it's like Tinder for engineering. We're the Cupid of manufacturing, where we're matching up, people who want things to be made with the people that can make them. Tinder.
I like it. That's a good piece of marketing, actually. Make a note of that. Let's go in next week's LinkedIn campaign.
But it is, and it's, we are kind of like the matchmakers, and we see and we work with massive brands like, McLaren and JCB and, JLR and, McLaren is one of my favourite ones. And it's like those parts that we're matchmaking, they are going on cars. And so when we see them in the street, we pull people over and say, look, we actually deserve a ride in your car because some of the parts are in there that are ours.
It does happen. I mean, we do a lot for Morgan Motors as well, which is a heritage British automaker. And I was, funny story, side note, I got locked out of my house the other week. I'd left my front windows open and I had to go knocking. The only key was in my car, which was now 2 hours away because I'd given it to somebody else for the weekend. And I had to go and knock on everybody's up the road's house to grab a ladder. And this kind older guy had given me his ladder. He had a Morgan motor sat in the front of his garage, and obviously very carefully helped prop this ladder out to help break into my own house. But it's a nice thing to see, because on the car I can see, because we do a lot for the mirrors, so the interior, the exterior of a mirror of Morgan Motors, we make them. So you see the car, and you're just having this conversation with someone, Peter, his name was, and just chatting to him and saying, it's lovely to meet you. You know that mirror there and there? So we make them.
Yeah, giving in his spares.
Yeah, sort of. But it was nice. I mean, it helped him sort of come to the conclusion that I'm not a lunatic trying to break into houses, and he's a new accomplice. But it's a great business model. It's a very evergreen business model. Businesses will always need products to be sourced, and our strength lies in that sourcing. So where we make our money is because we know where to go for the supply of certain products, and that is a real strength for so many different customers, because what we offer to businesses really is the hassle-free purchase of products. So rather than them have to allocate tons of resources to a particular purchase of product, they can just come to us with a drawing, with a piece of information to say, look, and here's a great example. You've got like a monster can here. Somebody is going to need to manufacture the can. Somebody is going to need to manufacture the liquid that goes into it. It's going to have to be put together, packaged, boxed, sealed, and then shipped out around the world. Now, people that, for example, are manufacturing that, they might think, well, I don't really want to go through the whole ball ache process of putting all of that together. So cue Cola Supply and cue Tyler and Cody and what we do. And if you weren't aware, Cola is Cody, CO, and Tyler, LER, is an amalgamation of the two names. So businesses give us a lot of money for that service, and we do a great job of servicing their needs, because we're going to deep dive into some of the great benefits of having a business like that. But as with every business, there are also some real pain points that suck, especially if things go wrong, because the biggest Achilles heel of our business is the fact that we don't have direct control of what's being made. And so if things were happening under our roof and there's a problem, we can go to the source of the problem and say, oh, it was Bill on the CNC, or it was Derek on the multi-spindle or something. We know who it is, and we can identify the root cause of the problem really quick. Whereas if I'm having to go over to China, and I have had to do it on many occasions, I'm traveling like 12 hours to Shenzhen and sorting problems with the casting out, it isn't as easy. And also dealing with the time difference and everything. It's a very 24-hour style business.
Well, and this is it. And the only reason we've been able to get to where we've got with the suppliers that we know, the customers that we've dealt with, the ongoing relationships, the customers we've dealt with for over 20 odd years, even longer, some of them, is because we've got at the heart of any successful business is a system that runs the business. And without that, you're destined to fail. And obviously with us, we're lucky that we had a bespoke system where it, you can add bits here and there. But again, behind any great business is a great system. And Amazon is one of the biggest companies in the world that has got one of the most stringent policies for their system, to what I've ever been told. And it's the reason why they're a $1 trillion market cap company, because they're extremely good at what they do, and they've got an extremely good system.
Cody's just looking for an ego boost because he's responsible for the systems in our business.
You're damn right I am.
You are right, though. In short, a business is only as good as its systems, but a business is also only as good as its people.
Yeah.
And realistically, the two need to work completely in tandem, yeah, for sure. And if the systems aren't up to scratch and the people are working on a system that doesn't work, your people are going to fail because they can't do the job. And then equally, if you've got a great system but a bunch of monkeys running it, then chaos will soon descend. And that's the reality of it. So you've got to get both working really, really in tandem and well together. So it's got to be a really well-oiled machine. Now, I'm responsible for the people in our business and you're responsible for the systems. But taking it sort of really back and giving everybody a real insight into how our business works, because I do want to deep dive into a lot of how the business is ran. And put very simply, the first stage for us as a company is receiving what we would classify as an RFQ, which is a request for quotation, from a customer. They would send us a breakdown of a quantity that they need, a drawing or a sample of exactly what they want to be made. And it could be anything. We've done gym equipment, we've done cars, we've done aeroplanes, we've done helicopters, we've done hospital equipment, we've
LED
done PPE.
cans for the blind.
Yeah, it's one of your weird ones. But we've done loads of different things, and that's the beauty of our business. Every day is a different day. We work with so many different industries, so many different customers. Some of them are worth 50 billion on a market cap, and some of them are worth 5 mil. So there's a good range there. But they send us all of their RFQs in. And we are then obviously responsible for finding the supply that we know that is going to generate the best value quotation. And I don't just mean price, because our game isn't about cheap. It's not about giving the best price. Again, everything I always say in business is about giving value. So in sales and in building a business, it's about understanding what your customers want and what their needs are. And every customer's different. And you should always build a bit of a customer profile and understand and ask questions about what they want, how they want to be served, how they want their parts delivered, products delivered. What are their focuses? Is it quality, cost? Is it lead times? Whatever it might be. And understanding what your customer wants. So don't just receive an inquiry or an RFQ from someone and send them back a shit PDF quote. Spend some time understanding who your customer is, what they actually want that's not written. It's the in-between the line stuff. So somebody might say they want 1,000 cans of Monster. That's great on paper, but why do they need them? When do they need them? How do they want them to be delivered? Where do they want them to be delivered? There's all these questions that people need to be asking in the background to offer a faultless service. It needs to be 10 out of 10 service. And that is, again, something that falls short in so many businesses nowadays. And you can see it. You walk around any business that you go in now, so customer service is just completely dropped off. America is quite good at this because their customer service is centered around tips and very heavy tip culture, which pisses me off whenever I go there. It's like, minimum 20%. It's like,
yeah, the options on the scanners, it's like 18, 20, 22. I'm like,
mentally, you've scanned a chocolate bar while sat down. How am I meant to give you 20% tip? And they're still there looking, waiting for it. They're like, gonna tip.
Tip me, sir?
Yeah, I hate it. Anyway, not to get sidetracked, but customer service, huge. It's so, so important. So if you are working within a business, your number one, again, look, businesses are nothing without customers. You are running, by all accounts, potentially a charity is the only thing I can think of. If you've not got customers, paying customers, you haven't got a business. So your customers are almost number one. Now, you obviously, again, have to look at systems and people, so it all comes together. But customer service is number one. So remember to ask those questions at the point of inquiry.
Well, we do as well. I mean, again, using the same monster analogy and that example that, we could go through the entire sourcing of that can and say, oh, we're going to get it from China, and send a price over and say, yeah, 16 weeks, it takes a few days to get all the information through. And then the guy looks at it and goes, oh, no, I need him in a week. And you go, oh, whoops. Oh, I'll get another quote for you then. I can get him in the UK as well, or somewhere in Europe. And then but the guy's going, oh, can't believe he didn't even ask. I mean, some people would be cynics and look at it and go, well, he should have told us. But that's the thing, like we're saying, it's got to be good service. And by being good service, you got to be proactive and asking the right questions.
And that comes back to sales, though. There's that Wolf of Wall Street, sell me this pen analogy, which comes up quite a lot in sales. And the ridiculous thing, if anybody that tries to sell a product, is the first thing that they try and do is sell the product. You need to qualify the customer first and understand what they want. If somebody's trying to sell you a pen, or if I'm trying to sell a pen, the first question I'm asking is, do you use pens? Are you in the market for pens? Does your business use pens ever? And if the answer is no, I never use pens, I hate them, why am I going to spend 5 minutes on the phone trying to convince you to use a pen? The reality is, there's people out there, I need to find who are actively using pens in their day-to-day lives.
Yeah, do you remember that? Because there was someone the same example. You had that cold call from someone with the events business or something, and he called up about, what was he trying to sell?
I'll tell you, he had me laughing. Imagine you get a phone call from, it was either a London boy or an Essex boy, so it was bad enough listening to him on the other end of the phone, and that's coming from a Brummie. But he just started ranting and raving about how he's got this crazy discount for the Grand National. No, it wasn't. It was Royal Ascot. It was Royal Ascot, and he was trying to sell some VIP package. And it got to the point where I was finding it that funny. He'd been speaking non-stop for about 60 seconds. Hadn't even asked me my name at this point. And I just put the phone down. Like, not down, but like just, I hadn't hung up. I just put the handset like just down next to me.
Just kept going.
Look back up, and I could just hear this like muttering whilst I was emailing in the background. About 3 minutes 30, I eventually picked up the phone. He was like, how does that sound, Tyler? And I'm like, I don't like horse racing, mate. He was like, oh.
He's like, oh, you're joking.
Oh, all right, right. Sorry, mate. All right, what about Formula One? And I'm like, I said, I don't really need to listen to another 3-minute monologue about Formula One, mate. No, I don't like that either. So it was one of those things. It's just like, you've spent 4 minutes of your life trying to sell something to someone, i.e. horse racing.
That the complete wrong customer.
You might be like an animal activist or something. And you're trying to pitch something that some might be, some of these real militant activists would consider to be cruel. Like, how dare you ride a horse around a track for your own enjoyment? But the reality is, it's like, you've just wasted 4 minutes of your time. So first thing you should always do is qualify your customer, find out what they want, what their needs are. And that's what we do. We find obviously good success with that. Once we then have to go through the whole rigmarole, that order is then passed off to the right supplier if we win that purchase order from the customer. And then we are responsible for the importing. We're responsible for the packaging, all of the quality, the delivery, making sure it's all on time. And that whole process is looked after by our business. And it sounds simple on paper, the reality of just buying a product and bringing it in from another country. But everything that goes into that is a nightmare sometimes, isn't it? I mean, we've had a few stinkers in the last few months. It seems to have bit us on the backside.
Well, this is the problem. And people do just go out all whimsical, and it's like, oh yeah, let's go to China, and let's just, there's a guy on Alibaba or some of these websites, let's order from him, and let's get you need to send me a sample first. So it's like, I'll get a sample which has been made in a completely different factory, and you're like, that looks really good. Let's send because again, if you're random Joe blogs, you'll have to be paid up front for a lot of it, probably even 100%. So you've gone and spent, say, 10 grand, and then you get your parts in, and then lo and behold, they've, instead of coming in as steel, they're like brass, and you go, what the hell? That's not what I ordered. And they go, oh, sorry, goodbye. Just, you are the weakest link, and then they're gone, and then it's like, good luck trying to sue that company in China as a UK-based business, you got no chance.
Well, business is about building relationships, and this is why I talk about creating that customer service, because building relationships with people is the most valuable thing that you can do in your life, because a problem shared is a problem halved. And if you know the right people to go to who can help solve your problems, you're living life on easy mode. Because if you need something made, i.e. you know the best baker, I'll go back to that analogy of loaf of bread making, you're getting the best bread. If you're a restaurant and you get the best seafood because you've got a good relationship with the fisherman or the fish market, good relationship with the sea. If you've got a good relationship with the fisherman that's catching it fresh and your first dibs, there's some really good films on that. I think it's Burnt, I think with Bradley Cooper, and he does a real good take on a high level Michelin chef. And he talks about the ingredients that he has to buy in, and to become first dibs, you will almost have to bribe the local produce, and you have to be getting up at 3 a.m., 4 a.m. to make sure that you are first on the drop off for the best ingredients. So it just, again, if you want to have a good, solid, strong business, you are going to rely on other people to help you get there. And to do that, you have to build relationships, and building relationships with the right people. And so, again, I go back to customer service and making sure you're giving value to people. One of the best skills I think that you can have as a business owner is negotiation and being resourceful. Some really good books on this. Getting to Yes is a really, really good book on negotiation. You should definitely read that, because it really helps with understanding how to put yourself in the person that you're potentially negotiating with's shoes, and then find out how to reach a win-win scenario, because most people try and negotiate and come off better than the other person. And when you do that, usually one person feels like they've been they've been shafted, yeah. So that's a really good one to get skilled up on, is negotiation, and getting to a yes, a great one.
Yeah, and then it's, well, for me, like you've already started on it, it's getting the right team members in. So again, it's having a process of getting those people through the door. So you're making sure you're filtering out the right people to get the best possible team you can. And we're really lucky that our team is, well, second to none, in our opinion.
I love our team. And again, it takes time to build one. But again, this is another thing and this is where I'm directly responsible. So I have to build an environment, and I have to create a vehicle to bring people into the business that are directly receiving a return on their investment, which is time. And again, time, second to none, is the most valuable asset or valuable piece of currency that anybody can spend or can hold. Time. You can never buy more of it. You will never get given more, and that is a fact of life. So spend it wisely. So if somebody's coming to work for our business and spending 40, sometimes more hours per week within the business, I've got to create an environment that means they want to put in that time, do a good job when they're there, not fuck around, try their best, but also know that they're going to get a return on that valuable commodity that they're giving me in time, and make sure that they're being fairly compensated for it. And most business owners try and think about how they can starve their people of any motivation, starve them of their time, or rob them of their time and give as little back in return. But the reality is you get far more from your team by giving them the opportunity to better their lives through that investment of their time, rather than trying to steal a living. And that's how we've always ran things. And it doesn't mean we always get it right, but we do our best to make sure that we are giving our team a good return on their investment.
There's got to be a bit of both. So there's got to be carrot and stick. And I think now, after we went and saw Andy Elliott and saw how he was doing it, it changed a bit. And I think some companies are stuck in the old ways of just giving the stick all the time. And it's like, you've got to incentivize people to, want to be there. And, if someone wants to be at work and loves their job, as opposed to someone who just begrudgingly goes in and thinks, oh, God, another day. Yeah, I'll just get that thing that they've asked me to do. Who's going to perform better? Someone who comes in loving their job, or someone who just does what they have to do because they have to? I mean, it doesn't take a genius to work out which one's going to be more efficient.
Yeah, well, there's two types of leadership. That's the old mentality of leadership, which is very much command and instruct. And it's very much, this is what you're doing, this is how you do it, and this is what I expect. And that's that whole like command and instruct. This is how you do things. Whereas now, it's about trust and inspire. It's about bringing people along and creating this vision for people to want to buy into your business and say, we are going to this destination. This is what we stand for as a company. This is what we're trying to achieve. And for us as a company now, we're trying to rejuvenate an industry which is very much stuck in the mud or has been for a very long time.
A lot of grey hair.
A lot of grey hair. It's boring, and it is an industry that is, by all accounts, if we were to just tell people, we're in manufacturing, which I suppose is the overarching descriptor of what we do,
people are going,
don't exactly excite.
Cool.
Don't exactly excite anyone.
Oh no, but we do LED canes for the blind.
Yeah, I stay well clear of that one. But it's not exciting to anyone. It's boring. Like you said, most people want to be in acting or TikTok or YouTube and all of that. But we're combining the two.
Exactly.
But it's nice to sort of see that once you've given a clear vision and you've given a clear set of values to a team and somebody and potential new starters to a company, and they can really buy into it, they then feel a part of the journey. And when you're doing something special and changing the status quo of an industry, that's where, one, you get the return from customers as well, who like what you do and see a repeat business, and you can scale and grow your company even more because you're seen to be that pioneer. You're seen to be the tip of the spear that's making the changes, rather than, well, if I don't use you, I could use these people or this company or that company or this person and that person, because you're all the same and I'm just competing on price. And if you only compete on price, it's the race to the bottom, because you will always find someone that just does it cheaper than you. So if you're in a business, you need to stand out by offering more than just cheap or more than just cost, because again, you end up becoming a Primark. And no offense to Primark, but they will destroy you and decimate you when it comes to cheap clothing, because their supply chain is that strong and their business model is that well connected and well, it's that well ran now. You're never going to compete with it ever. You're going to lose every time. So you can't make if I said to you as an investor that I want to come up with a new budget clothing store that's going to rival Primark, you're going to get laughed out of the bank by any investor with a brain, because you're just not going to do it. But if you say, I want to create a new budget clothing range with a vision that changes something within the industry or that has a difference, that markets itself differently.
Give a t-shirt to the homeless for every 4 t-shirts
It's a good one.
sold or whatever.
Yeah,
Things
it's a
like
good one.
Anything like that. At least you're standing out and doing something a bit different. But like you say, direct competition is just never going to work, because like we've found it as well. Because, years ago when we were first starting, we were doing that, and it was, someone would say, we'd quote a price at £1 and they go, I've had it for 95p. I'd be like, we'll do it 90p. And then it'd be like, okay, you can have the order now. But then you take a hit on your margins, you take a hit on your net profits and everything. And the running of the business the whole thing takes a hit long term. So you got to be adding more than just the price and the service that we provide in the communication when we get told. And it's, God, I love the communication of your company. Oh God, everyone just gets back to us straight away. You're selling that as well as the price.
Of course, and that's what you need to understand. As pick a few key differentials between how you would start. And again, advice that I always give to people is, if you are just in the journey of starting a business, or if you're actively in a business, look at what your competitors are doing, but look at what they're doing badly. And whatever they're doing badly, feed off of that, completely turn that into one of your strengths. And then your marketing can be a bit of a piss take and be like, so-and-so does X badly, but look at us. And you can play and have fun with it. And you've got to be careful of just directly sort of, because I think they can sue, there's libel and things, but you can put funny little things. I've seen, is it Ryanair's? I think Ryanair's got a really good social media team that come out with some amazing comments in social medias, or if there's news stories, and they completely play on the fact that they're a budget, low cost, uncomfortable airline, But then they play on that fact, and it really appeals to people because they're honest and they know what they're good at. They know where their strengths are, but they know what they also can do and what they can't do, and then they market that.
Well, they've even started to do the stand-up seats, I think, or they're coming very soon, where it's like even cheaper seats, but you got to stand up. But I think it's not going to be as uncomfortable as probably people are making out, because it's almost like an amusement ride where you are standing up and you're at least sitting a little bit, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I saw the design, but it's, again, they're very, very good at what they know, and that's the thing with businesses. It's like, that's what we do. You don't want to branch out and start completely changing into a new direction. But I think, for us, some of the weaknesses of our business, and for anybody thinking of potentially starting something in procurement or global supply chain, some of the direct issues that we have, finding suppliers is tough.
Huge, yeah.
Really, really tough. And it takes a while to build that relationship with, because like you said, if something goes wrong, for example, if an order of ours worth 40k goes wrong, and we haven't got that direct relationship with them where there's a future promise of orders or a future promise of more money being spent, and we say to the supplier, look, you need to fix this problem, you need to replace everything for another 40k, but we're not giving you a penny. It'd be like paying for 1,000 TVs and half of them turning up broken. You'd expect them to be returned and you'd get all your 500 replaced. But in China, sometimes
what you're gonna do.
They'll just say, well, it's not worth it for us. We'll just
close up.
We'll just cancel the account. We just won't deal with you anymore. And the reality is you're stuck and you've got a 40k bill, and that's it. You're stuck. So that's a real tough one. Cash flow is another one you've got to try and struggle with, because the lead times coming all the way from China
Got to pay up front.
It's really tough. Sometimes you have to pay up front. Is a really, really tough one. And then the final one is the actual ERP system that you need in place to manage everything. And then finally, the knowledge that's required as well to actually understand what you're buying, where to buy it from, how to buy it, and that initial learning curve is a tough one.
Yeah, and then knowing what to put in the ERP as well. It's, again, with automotive supplies, you need batch numbers, you need quality control, you need preventative measures to stop things going out the door, you need pass and failure modes on each different check-in that's required. You need people that are going to pick, people that are going to pack, people that are going to track the supply chain. And there's so many different elements that we've had to, you can tell I do the systems. You've got so many different elements that you got to think about and make sure it's all been done properly. And going in and having no prior knowledge, it's all good and well, I suppose, if you've worked in a business, at least you've got something that's a business, like a procurement business, then fair enough, you've got a bit of a start point. But there's so much more, and there's so many different things. And, out the other end, you're still competing with razor thin margins in comparison to something like a Monster.
Very true. I mean, some of the strengths, though, there's a very low startup cost to begin with. Obviously, the system, yes, itself, but that can be made and you can track it quite, once you're just starting out, there's less orders to worry about, less orders to control and track. So the startup cost is generally relatively low. You don't need any machinery or equipment or assets. You don't even need a warehouse. You can leverage other people's warehousing. So you can leverage other people's systems. So if you're really savvy, you can start as a bit of a one-man band, and I'd easily generate, we do each about $1.5 million in sales. 2 million we're aiming for this year each. And that's no small number in 12 months, but for just one person. So again, you can got really low startup costs. Some of the other ones as well, you get to leverage in suppliers. So again, you're not having to do any of the donkey work yourself, which is we find beneficial. I certainly don't want to sound like a princess, but I don't want to be spending my life back breaking away, doing some tradey job where I'm having to get my hands battered and my back destroyed. Because every person's dad that I know that's been a tradie for their lives has worked out grafting manual labour every single day. They get to 40 and their back's destroyed and their knees are battered. And I'm just thinking to myself, no, let somebody else do it. Do you know what I mean? I'm not that guy. And then the final one, which I love about our business, is the scalability. We can get one order and all of a sudden you're off and you're to the moon. It could be 10 mil, 50 mil, 100 mil. And it just takes that one order. So some really good benefits from having a global supply chain business.
Well, it's like the PPE when that was all starting, and then we started off small, just selling bits and pieces here. And then it was all of a sudden like you got £800 million order just bang, just £1 million order, just snap of a finger, pretty much. It's like, oh, there's a nice, and it's just on a piece of paper as a purchase order, and you're like, right, that's literally like looking at £1 million, and it's wild when you see that value.
I'd put it in a video if I could, but obviously I can't because of the
confidentiality.
But yeah, it was nice, and things like that are really good when you're working in a business, and that's when the hard work pays off. So it's all these little things. There are so many little nuances of business that you have to control, and people discount how hard running a business is, and that's when I hear so many times online and people saying, oh, these business owners are disgusting. All they ever do is prey on the back of other people's hard work as if they've done nothing themselves, taken no risk, invested no money, no time or anything to build and scale a business. It's all off the back of everybody else's hard work. And as I said, like, people are massively important in companies, without a doubt. But the nuances and the actual building or the business itself requires so many different working pieces for it all to come together. And that's in a business of our size, which we're only sort of mid 7 figures. Our plan is to get to 8 figures in the next 3 years. And then new challenges will come up, and then we'll get to 8 figures into 9 figures. We'll be at 100 million. And new problems
then we'll have a plane.
And then we'll have a plane, yeah. I wouldn't mind a plane.
That'd be very good. Yeah, tell you what, that's the 10-year plan.
Well, it's about having goals, though. That's, again, with business. I love business for that. But, again, I don't know, is there anything else you want to really cover with what we're doing?
Well, I mean, I think the thing that's really helped us as well is being in business with someone that you completely trust, and someone that, well, you know quite well, funnily enough. But, you know, having someone there that you trust, that you can then work towards the goals in tandem together, and you're pushing things forward. Because, you know, there's always going to be times where one's, like you've said, you know, you got your 3 pillars in previous episodes, where sometimes you've got to focus on other areas, and then business can take a bit of a hit for a little period of time, but then someone else takes the slack, and then, you know, I might have a bit of a time where it's not going as well, and then you can take the slack, and you've got that yin and yang working with each other. So if you have, or lucky enough to have someone in your life where you're both very similar in drive, and that you're not too similar, but like similar enough that you can trust each other, you know, go into business with someone else like that as well.
Time for you to start picking up the slack then. It's your turn a little bit.
Yeah, well, I'm back on top with sales almost.
Yeah, almost is the key word in that sentence. So still behind. But it's good fun. Like, business is great fun. And I love working with family. I love working. You can bring your friends in, and we've just had we're starting a new apprentice now as a young lad. He works for UPS in the warehouse, and it's giving opportunities to people that are young, hungry, wants to learn, wants to get stuck in and start his career. And sometimes I remember what it was like. I mean, I talk about like I'm ancient, but I'm 29, 30 at the end of the year.
Getting on a bit.
And I remember being that age. I was lucky. I had a real good opportunity to go and work with a family and work in business with him. But I would love to recreate, and have recreated that for other people as well. So I just think it's really important, which is why we do this podcast, to give back and hopefully inspire people to start and join businesses and learn more, find out about entrepreneurialism and entrepreneurship and trying to grow a business themselves. I think the more businesses, the better. I think it's a really good future for the country is to have as many businesses as we can, solving problems, creating competition, and really pushing each other to do better and be better. And I think that's I am very capitalistic in the way I see things. I think the more businesses that we have, I just think the better the country runs.
Well, you look at this, I mean, in recent years, we've had Monzo as a new company in the UK, which employs thousands of people. Revolut employs tens of thousands of people, I believe. We've had Gymshark employs thousands of people. All these companies, one, employ people, which creates jobs, but then it also brings in tax revenue. And I know what people say about business being tax efficient and all this sort of stuff, but in the grand scheme of things, they're still paying millions, hundreds of millions of pounds in taxes, which then go to pay the roads, pay for the schools, pay for the NHS, pay for people's electric car, the subsidies, and all this sort of stuff that people need and want. Without businesses, nothing's paid for because governments don't create revenue, they just spend it.
Even if the businesses themselves, and like you said, they're situated in the Cayman Islands, and they're avoiding
It's all poor
tax like
people.
Nike with their logos set up in Belarus. And, there are ways around these things, but the reality is Nike's employees are still paying tax. They are still paying employers national insurance. They are still paying these fees just because of the profitability of the company itself. They're not paying it directly, but the directors will be paying tax. All of the employees will be generating tax. They will all then be going into the world of the local societies and communities that they're in, spending money in businesses and spending it there. Or you could just say, right, get rid of Nike. We're not having it in this country. We don't like the fact that they're trying to avoid the back end profitable tax or the corporation tax on the profit. So, kill them all and destroy the business, tell them they can't trade. And the reality is thousands, like you said, of people have lost jobs. It's not how business, it's not how society's ran. So people generally that come out with that conclusion, Gary's economics, generally don't have a fucking clue what they're talking about because they've never ran a business and they don't look at that side of things. They just come with this silly mindset of tax the rich, tax the rich. And yes, I agree, the rich should be taxed more, but they also account for the largest percentage share of tax payments in this country by a long, long mile. Isn't it something like the top 1% of earners pay for 40% of the tax?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
So what? We want to try to get rid of them. That just means that you're going to put more strain on the middle class and the lower class to pay more. It's just silly. I mean, it's basic economics, but apparently Gary with his crystal ball knows everything. So we'll see what happens anyway. But
he just wants the economy to get destroyed so he wins another bet, the prick.
I mean, that is quite true. In all fairness, you only have
he bets against the damn economy, the guy. Like, no wonder he's shouting everything down, going, it's going to go down. He's got some big bet on.
I've never thought about it like that, but that's a very valid point. When his motivations are surrounded and centered around the destruction of the economy, it comes to think that actually he might be wanting to have things get worse before they get better. But anyway, I think that's a good place to wrap up. Sorry, Gary.
Yeah,
but
I'm not.
But that is how we run our business. Again, it's a very, very simple model on the surface. It's quite simply leveraging suppliers to manufacture product for our customers. But again, we control that entire process. As I said, we're looking to end up with, in the next 3 years, an 8-figure turnover in revenue. We've done 25 million in the last 4 years, sorry. So for us, we're going to keep doing what we're doing, keep learning, growing and scaling. And again, also helping give back to our team and to also people that want to continue to learn about business and entrepreneurship in the Brothers in Business podcast. Thank you very much for watching. Remember, like, subscribe, new videos every single Monday, and we'll catch you in the next one.